Welcome to TARTLEcast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path.
What's up, Jason?
What is up, Alex?
There was a quote that we read in the MIT review, and it talked about what is the true nature of data.
Mm-hmm. That's a philosophical question.
Yeah, it is somewhat philosophical. And then after you understand its true nature, how do you govern it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about how these are somewhat contradicting. Does anyone in this world right now tell a hurricane what to do?
No, you can't.
No. So the hurricane has its own nature. It's bound by its own physical laws and it does its own thing. We can't govern that. It is its own sovereign, piece of weather doing what it chooses to do. Its true nature is to spin, rain, blow wind, and destroy things. It's the hurricane. There's no governing over the laws of nature.
Right.
We aren't above that as human beings. And so when we look at data, and it says, what is the true nature of data and how do you govern it? It's a contradicting sentence because you can't govern nature.
No.
Nature governs you. You're bound by its laws. Data, in its true nature, all it is a byproduct of our interactions with something electronic. That's what data is. We take in data through our eyes, through our senses, through all these different things, and our mind interprets it. And then from that, we either come to some sort of conscious thought or we change our motor function to do a specific action. We're processing biological data. It has its own nature. It's still bound by those physical laws, but we can't govern it and tell it what to do. It just is what it is. And so we look at the nature of data in this world right now. It's information. It's our interactions, and it's how we share that information over these electronic mediums. Its speed, how fast it travels, is bound by physics.
Right.
Its quality of data is bound by the quality of our collection of that data or how we actually interpret it, or how that value is then translated back to society itself. So the nature of data, in my mind, is this thing that is essentially self-governed. We as people, as human beings, create it. So in its nature, data is a reflection of the human being and its interactions. Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. It's almost, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to, because it's almost like the soul. It shows the intent of us as who we are. It shows the deepest, darkest secrets of us. If they pulled all our data, like if they were able to pull, like Google can with.
Yeah, if you start yanking my dreams.
Yes.
All the words I'm saying right now.
Right, my thoughts.
All of my thoughts, all that stuff. That data in itself, it's that byproduct of what it means to be a human being. Mm-hmm. So the nature of data is all but a byproduct of human beings interacting with one another. Yeah, and interacting with themselves.
And it's collecting that information.
And there's no one there to govern that except for the people that create it.
Yeah, and I like on this article, this MIT article, they talked about Zoom and how their market capitalization surpassed ExxonMobil.
Yeah.
And then they said, and when we see these data companies becoming monsters, but the analogy of using oil is like data, like the extraction, processing it, giving it value. I think that those are kind of like the new oil. If you could picture that in that way,
data has to be refined.
Right.
It needs to be worked and labored on, right? Like your thoughts in your mind, you have to work at those thoughts for it to become a good thought before you start sharing ideas.
Yes.
You don't want to share a stupid idea, right? You want to make sure it's well thought through. You got to put the time and the labor into it, and that increases the value of it. So this byproduct of your thoughts and your digital interactions, this data, it requires a little bit of labor, right? It requires that sort of processing so that it translates to you and it makes sense to Jason what I'm saying and thinking. Like my data is being received properly through your ears.
Right. And the car sharing company example they used, I thought was really cool. You know, they have all this data about where we journey, what we do. And then they said, should some of that be shared with the public transit authorities? You know, so now you're getting into this private sector, government. How does it help humanity? You know, what is the analysis of data? And then how can it be, you know, I mean, for instance, you take, you know, how many people buy bottled water? And then you have municipalities that it's like, why can't what comes out of the sink be perfectly fine for me to drink?
Yeah. I mean, just look at what they're doing in France. They have those water fill-up stations absolutely everywhere.
Yes.
And it's great water.
Yes.
It like truly is really good water.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting how we misdirect ourselves. And I love the fact that even from the car sharing standpoint, like blending that with government transportation, well, frankly, it's just more efficient. Private industry all the time is always going to be more efficient than a government. That's just what it is. There's just less red tape and people can innovate faster with less restriction. But that sort of world takes time to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we need to figure out how we just manage the data that makes that sort of world happen.
Yes.
And we've done a poor job of it. And when it asks how to govern it, well, you can't really govern nature, but you can govern yourself and your choices, the person creating that data.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the progenitor of it and data is my byproduct, I need to look at my own self-governance. I need to reflect on what I am creating and how I actually work that asset, that new type of asset that isn't accounted for in GDP, but it's so valuable altogether in our stock markets, right? It's such a key driver for our economy.
Well, and Tim O'Reilly with the O'Reilly Media, he talked about this. You know, he invented open source, Web 2.0, all that stuff. He talked about Google Maps. And I think this goes right into what you're saying. He's like, I expect when I'm giving my data to Google Maps to give me insight of where I'm going, reviews, the restaurant, the pictures, whatever it may be. I expect that from Google Maps.
No,
but I don't expect them to take my data and then turn around and
resell it.
Yes.
But that's what they do. But that is their business. That is how they were fundamentally designed. You know, why is it that I'm on Google Maps and it pulls up a restaurant and then it forces me to go to Yelp?
Yes.
That's because there's a contract, there's a deal.
Yes.
They want to make money. They don't just want to give you all the information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always about how does somebody else get a piece of that resource
that
before
third party.
Yeah. Before you get knowledge, you got to pay up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole problem with school. Why am I paying for something that would at its absolute core benefits me and society? This elevates all of us when we're all educated. So why would we put up some sort of red tape that prevents people from getting the best quality education anywhere?
Yes, 100%.
Why are we commercializing these things that shouldn't be commercialized? Why are we turning people into these digital commodities when they should be treated like human beings? Why are we saying that a government or all these other political bodies need to govern data when people need to self-govern the thing that they're creating? It's their byproduct.
Right. It's like in this pandemic with, I remember in California, which, you know, we all know the situation there, but where they weren't allowing people to go do, like, they specifically said you can't do yoga or martial arts out on the beach in the sunlight.
Don't do healthy things.
You can't surf.
Yeah. Don't go in the salt water.
It's like, how social distancing are you when you're surfing? How many times are you going to get 6
couldn't be
feet
any friggin' further away from somebody, you know.
You're in the water away from the city.
Buddy, I'm shredding the gnar. Like, do not tell me I'm going to get COVID out in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, how many people have gotten COVID in salt water?
Yeah.
In the sunlight.
I was in my wetsuit out in the sunlight being real healthy, shredding the gnar.
But I mean, it's to me, that's...
I'm constantly bathing.
Government is super ineffective in governing.
Yeah.
And I know we call it government, but it scares me when the government gets involved with data.
Yeah, because first of all, I understand why they're trying to get involved because people see the economic value in it now.
Lobbyists are pushing them, yeah.
And with that, you know, naturally everybody wants to get their hands on the pot, but we need to go back to the real supportive base. And that supportive base are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings need to self-govern their own data. They need to be responsible for the things they create. And if they want the value of that thing they create, well, then they need to appropriate it to the proper tools. Don't pass the responsibility off.
Yeah, and it says data has distinctive traits and dynamics, which must be factored into any robust interpretive framework. This article is so amazing. This includes its reusability.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about data. It's not like I buy a vase on eBay.
Right.
It's been used once. Oh, crap. What about the other 30,000 people that wanted that vase?
Right.
That's the cool part about data. It's an intangible.
That machine learning algorithm from eBay can turn around and serve other vases that are like that to the other 30,000 people that are looking for it.
It will never be that specific piece.
No, yes.
And the cool part about data is that you can reappropriate that data as many times as you want wherever you need to do so. It has such great flexibility, right? But again, that's that double-edged sword. Well, how does the control work? How does the progenitor, how does the provenance of that data continue to track itself so that we know that Jason is the person, even though it's been copied 30, 40, 5,000 times,
right?
That you're the original person that created it. It's got your earmark on it.
Yeah, and they actually, I think they stole this quote from you in the article. They said this: valuing data means understanding who participated in its creation.
I literally just said that.
I guarantee you said that years ago. Years ago.
Yeah, years. Yeah.
But government, for instance, has been essential investors in both the technology and the data systems today, from GPS to the internet itself, yet they still do not see themselves as value creators. Once you see that government funds technological progress, it becomes not just a regulator, administrator, or market fixer, but an investor and a value creator.
Yeah, you're investing in people. And when people take responsibility for their data, they're investing in themselves.
And so then it takes it and it says viewing data through the lens of the participants involved in its value creation, which you've talked about this 100 times. In turn, informed, sensible versus misguided remedies. And it goes into what's important is not to make accusations against big tech. What's important is getting into the nitty gritty of how algorithms are being used.
Yeah, no,
and I think that's a very fair approach.
That's a non-combative approach.
Yes.
And that's what we're saying. You don't have to combat and say that's the bad guy.
Is Facebook bad or not? Is Mark Zuckerberg going to the Bohemian Grove?
Yeah.
We don't know.
We don't know, but listen, nothing is inherently bad.
Right.
Okay. It's just that how we are using these things that are naturally agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
These things are data is completely unbiased.
Right.
All it is that it is what it is. It's not good or bad. It's not positive or negative. It just is data, right? So when you take that concept and it's like, it is the tech company, but it's how they choose to use specific things. And if we choose to write algorithms a specific way, the algorithm should be agnostic. It shouldn't be biased.
Yeah, and I like what he said when he was talking about there's no possibility of accessing digital service that doesn't compel me to go along with the surveillance and advertising economy. And he was talking about he can buy a ticket from Southwest Airlines and then he knows that his data is getting sold to Facebook.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
And then, and that's the part that
now they know what time you're traveling.
That's the part that sucks.
And then those ads they know that you're at the airport.
They've all tied themselves into one another,
right,
so that they can come back and just keep double dipping out of your pockets.
Yes.
They're only looking at you as a money resource. They're not looking at it like you as a human being. The algorithms don't look at you as a human being.
But it's more than double dipping. It's like
triple
dipping? 10x dipping, because now they're serving you ads. You're clicking on those. They're making money off those. Now they're serving you ads to the place that you're vacationing to. And so then now that restaurant paid them to put that ad out there. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It just goes, it's that reusable part that we need to understand.
Yeah. And that's that reuse of that data. There is great benefit in being able to advertise, especially for small businesses in very specific locales. That is a huge benefit to what Facebook has done.
A huge.
That no one else has been able to do.
No other company could be able to be, if you're smart with Facebook, you can get so sniper focused, where you can literally, a small business could, in the old days, you couldn't market if you didn't have at least $5,000 a month.
And it's opened up marketing to small mom and pops.
Online marketing.
Yeah. And listen, that is very beneficial, but the double-edged sword is the amount of tracking it's getting inundated and how that data is being used and who's actually reaping the benefits of it. Mm. Yeah. Their marketing, right. That marketing system doesn't work unless there's people.
Period.
It's as simple as that.
Using the product.
Yeah. Even though you're serving someone an ad, you should still give them a cut.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's
you truly should.
Right.
Because your systems don't work at all anywhere for anybody without those people you're serving the ad to.
Yeah. But there's lots of, incentivizing. We could get into the rat hole. But you could turn around and, say, I guarantee if you click on any ads on Facebook, once you click on that and it goes to that, we've already worked a deal out with that company where you're going to get the lowest, best possible price.
Yeah.
Now you're benefiting consumers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and price isn't everything, we can get into that, but at least there's a benefit to the consumer for purchasing something. And now you've offset without actually giving them money like we do with TARTLE, but you can offset at least some of that free data that you're giving.
Yeah.
Like Costco does that, like if you find a lower price, you can bring it in. I think Best Buy does that.
You know how much of a hassle that is though?
Yeah. Go into the debt.
They're like, yeah, we'll do it, but you got to bring it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
don't
then bring the
wanna
ad in
bring
or whatever.
it in. Yeah.
Then I feel like a miser because it's $3 cheaper on Amazon. I got a friend that does that with Best Buy. Everything just scans it real quick and says, oh, it's $6 cheaper. And then they honor that.
Yeah. And that's what they do. But
Summarize it.
What we do in this world, all these great inventions, the true nature of these inventions, they should always have one single purpose. And that is strictly the evolution of a human being.
Yes. Period.
Nothing else.
Yeah. Nothing else.
If profiteering comes first, don't do it.
Right.
If it isolates people and puts them in specific groups, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If it separates things, don't do it. If it's political, don't do it. If it's dogmatic, do not do it. But if it evolves who we are, non-dogmatically,
yes,
truly increases the quality of life, we should focus on it in that way. We should develop and redevelop technology
I love that.
towards that path.
I love that. That's great.
All right.
Let's be done.
Thank you, MIT, for that.
Yes, great article.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to TartleCast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path. What's your data worth?